Hey everyone, this is Steve with another episode of Keep 'em Rollin', and this is the Show of Shows 2022 pickup video. So we're going to get right into all of the items that I found at the Show of Shows, and let me tell you, it was a show that did not disappoint. So on that note, let's jump right in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I'm going to share with you with this 2022 Show of Shows recent finds video is this beautiful Selective service medal. Now, I've wanted one of these for quite some time, but I could never find the one, if you know what I mean. And well, this is the one. And this is the second configuration of this medal. The first would have come in the coffin lid style box that's indicative of your World War II medals, but they quickly changed for the Selective service medal to this kind of square box. It doesn't have that coffin style lid. The Selective Service Medal was awarded for exceptionally meritorious service or for significant achievements or inspiration to others which contributed to the goals of the Selective Service, also known as the draft, and we know how big the draft was during World War II. This was awarded to both military and civilian personnel, and it's a wartime medal, meaning that it was only awarded during World War II. So from December 7th, 1941 through when Truman finally declared the war officially over in 1946. So it is a true wartime medal. Now this example, as I said, is just in amazing condition. The box is beautiful, and then the medal itself inside here, look at that. The blue lining, it's like a velvet lining, is just exceptional. The medal, I don't think has ever been out of this box. The medal is actually clipped to the box. So the medal, the bar, and the button are all clipped in, so they just pop out versus being pinned into the box, which I find to be really cool. Now, the cost of this was, I felt very reasonable. It was $20, and I've seen them online for anywhere from $25 to $40 plus your shipping and handling. So I thought that was a great find, and I think it's a wonderful way to kick off this Show of Shows video. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can believe this, these two little tiny pieces of insignia were the hardest thing to find at the Show of Shows. I thought they'd be the easiest, but boy, I was wrong. What we have here is we have a Purple Heart ribbon and a Purple Heart lapel button. And I recently had a Purple Heart come into my possession, which I'll do a video on in the future. And it has the heart and the case, but it's missing the button and the ribbon. I must have talked to at least a dozen dealers asking them if they had the Purple Heart ribbon and button. The ribbon, pretty easy. A lot of them did, but the button was a big no. I finally found a gentleman who was dealing in Purple Hearts, and I asked him, and he said he had one available. What it is, it's brass with enamel. It's beautiful. He said $10, and he'd throw in a ribbon for free, and I grabbed it, you know, because it's nice to go to the Show of Shows and find new things, but it's also nice to find things to complete projects, and now that project has been crossed off the list. Now, sometimes you run into odd things that you buy, and this is one of them. I saw this little pouch sitting on a table. It's just a little, almost looks like something would hold a military ID or something like that. Why it caught my eyes because it looks very similar to the wallets that are carried in the handbags / purses of the WACs and of Army nurses. Just that same color, material, the same type. And I thought, this would be a nice addition to the purse that I have. So for $3, I couldn't say no, and I brought it home. I'll show you all the handbag in a future video. I want to do a video on some of my women's items, so this will be included in that, and you can see how I use it. One thing about the Show of Shows is how much stuff is there, from huge things to small things. And that's why it's really important, if you're going to the Show of Shows, or really any show, just to kind of take your time and look at the tables. Don't just breeze by, but stop and actually look. That's how I found this. I just stopped, I took a deep breath, I kind of scanned the table, moved some things around, and boom, there was this beautiful World War II brass whistle. Whistle. It's been a long weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It's well marked, regulation, U.S. Army, solid brass. It's got a nice sheen to it. I don't think it's ever been polished. I think it's just in excellent condition. And to make it even better, it's complete. I see these out there, and oftentimes they're missing this ring and thus missing the entire chain, or they'll have the ring, but the chain will be missing, or the chain will be broken and it'll be missing the hook. This one is complete with the hook, chain, and the ring. That's what you want to see. Plus, the cork inside of here is still good. If you're considering buying a whistle, ask and then just give it a little blow to make sure it works, because sometimes that cork ball in there will dry out to the point where the whistle will no longer function. So let's give it a try here. Yep, works great. That's the sound of World War II, ladies and gentlemen. Now the price of this, $20. So not a bad price at all for a really cool, complete World War II U.S. Army whistle. All right, moving on, we are going to focus on these two pieces of headgear. And these were kind of what I would call, not inspirational buys, impulse buys. Well, you know, depends on how you look at it, but impulse buys. First of all, we have, you know, it's always funny trying to judge your hands when you're coming in on a camera. It's kind of like, I think I'm reaching for something, and it's like, nah, totally not. So we're going to start right here with this. This right here appears to be just your standard good old Marine Corps HBT cap. Doesn't look like there's ever been an EGA pin to it. There's no tags on the inside. There's a little bit of a marking on the inside. You know, I don't know much more about it. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. I do not have, and you can see the HBT weave in here. I do not have an HBT weave cap. So, you know, it's going to sit with my Marine Corps stuff for now. Price on this was $20. So I didn't think bad for, you know, that type of cap, considering most of the overseas caps that were at the Show of Shows were going for well over $20. So the other cap, this is something I've not talked a lot about, but recently I was able to fulfill a dream and acquire a substantial CCC, or Civilian Conservation Corps collection. A collection I've watched grow, I've known about, I've actually contributed to at some point, and it's now mine. And we'll go into that in a future video. I'm really excited to share that with you. But I'm always looking for CCC. And for those of you who don't know CCC, just real quick, Civilian Conservation Corps, it was a program started by Roosevelt in the 1930s to put young men back to work to kind of help with what was going on with the Great Depression. This cap right here is a typical cap worn by the CCC. A lot of times it looks like it's a military cap, and a lot of people mistake this for like United States Army, but this is actually something that was supplied by the government for the CCC. You'll see these more often in kind of a dark green color. It just kind of looks, some people have said it's like, oh, it's a Marine Corps cap, but no, it's actually CCC. This right here I bought because it is an incredibly early version. You don't see the khaki version that often, and what I really liked about it is on the inside here, you have these two great tags. One of them is for the NRA, which it's not the National Rifle Association. The NRA at this time in the 30s was the National Recovery Act. And then this tag right here is the date tag for the cap, you know, nomenclature tag. And this cap is dated 1934. So this is an incredibly early cap. The CCC started in 1933. So this was right at the very start of the CCC. It's in excellent condition for what it is. A little bit of wear here and there, but nothing that would, you know, cause me to hesitate on purchasing this cap. Price on this cap was $35. So not a bad buy at all. And it's going to go proudly into my CCC collection. So, which I'm once again going to share with you here in the future. Now, it wasn't my intention at the show to really buy much World War I material, but when this little pouch came my way, I couldn't say no. You know, for those of you who collect World War II, you're familiar with the Carlisle pouch or the First Aid Pouch. This is the World War I variant of that pouch. This thing is virtually unissued. And look at that, LCC and Company 1917. Just absolutely beautiful shape. And I love here how it's got the markings to sew the belt hook on. You can see, I think up here, you can see a couple more. Yep, right there. Now, the question I have on this is, I'm not quite sure if this was issued during World War I or if it was repurposed for World War II. You'll see these pouches used at the start of World War II. This hook, I'll have to do a little more research to say if that's actually a World War I hook on there or if it's a World War II hook. I mean, the pouch is so minty that it could be the World War I version. Either way, for $20, it was a no-brainer to pick this up, and I know exactly where it's going to go. It's going to go in with my World War I officer display, so I was really happy to find that for the price. I wish it had the insert for $20, but those darn World War I medical containers, man, they are expensive. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the show of shows would not be the show of shows if I didn't pick up a Canteen. And it almost didn't happen this year. I found the Canteens, there were a lot of them there, but the condition was average and the prices were up in the $60 to $70 range for a U.S. Canteen. And I find that to be just amazing that they're getting that high. Plus, I saw a lot of mounted Canteens this year, which is something you usually don't see. The mounted ones are the ones that have the leather straps with the hooks to hang off the saddle of a horse. They're not that common, and I must have seen at least a dozen or more of those Canteens this year, which that's one of those things about this show is you'll go one year and you'll be like, man, I am looking for blank, and you won't see one of those items. And the next year you go to the show and there's like 50 of them. And then the next year, none of them again. So it's interesting how things cycle in and cycle out. But anyways, back to this Canteen. This was literally the last purchase I made. I was walking out of the show. Something caught my eye. I stopped. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but I struck up a really good conversation with the dealer. And that was the wonderful thing about this show is the dealers were just so much fun to talk to. And we were having a great conversation. Another customer came along, and I hadn't noticed this. It was on the very edge of his table. He picked it up, and he looked at it and kind of scoffed at the price. And the dealer said, well, it's that price because it's British made. And the guy kind of didn't understand that, put the Canteen down, and just walked away. And I looked at the dealer and said, British made? And, well, it came home with me. What you have here is you have a British-made Canteen cover. I'm not going to open this up and show you. It's marked up here, but it's really faint, but it's there. Using a flashlight, you can see, and in the right light, you can see where it says British-made, 1944. It's got the company name. You can see the U.S. on here, and it's got that kind of unique color to it and a unique sewing here on the front. Basically, the Brits got the patterns, and they just kind of did their own thing when they made these Canteens. Just a nice example, and it is complete. The cup is a Foley, and I believe it's Foley Company, dated 1944, and the Canteen or the water bottle is also dated 1944. It still has the cork in the top. So just a nice overall Canteen he had, which was kind of funny. He had $65 on it, which, once again, I find that to be high for a Canteen, but for a British one, not so bad. And when I asked him what he could do on it, he told me he'd let me have it for $50. So I walked out of there with a really beautiful British-made Canteen for $50. And to me, that is a very good price for a kind of rarer version of Canteens. And I think that's the key right there is I have a problem paying $50 for something that's a very common U.S. Canteen cover that you can't see the date and the U.S. has been washed out and the cap's missing the cork. I have a problem with that. But for paying $50 for something that is unusual, a British-made Canteen, I will pay that all day long. All right, it also wouldn't be a show of shows if I didn't try and purchase at least one helmet. I try to stay away from the M1s because they are very expensive. And I usually focus on World War I, the M1917, or World War II, the M1917A1. And at this particular show, I came across a really nice M1917 that I'm holding here, and a really nice M1917A1. And it was kind of a coin toss. Which one do I buy? And this one won out simply because it was in just a little bit better condition than the M1917A1. Now, as far as this helmet, excellent condition. It's got that just awesome texturing on here, that heavy cork texturing, and it's about 85% present. You can see some areas where it has kind of flaked off, but overall, just an excellent helmet. Little bit of staining here and there, but nothing that detracts from the helmet at all. And more importantly, check out the liner here. It's got the complete correct liner. Everything is in great shape. The chin strap is in great shape. The size tag is present and not all worn out. The helmet is actually marked here. I'll flip it over here so you can see. It's got a heat stamp of ZA31. ZA was a company known as Crosby Manufacturing Company, and they're out of Buffalo, New York. So it's a nice US-made helmet. Little tip with one of these is if you buy it and you have the chin strap intact, be very careful because the leather on these loves to dry out. And I will not use this chin strap for anything other than putting on a glass head. Don't ever carry these by the chin strap, please. If you have an original, you're taking a good chance of having that chin strap break on you. So nice complete helmet, and that's what I want to find. I have noticed at the show of shows that the cost of these helmets has steadily risen, especially the World War I. A couple years ago, they were $100 for a nice conditioned helmet. Now you're looking at helmets that are running upwards of $200 for a nice conditioned helmet, which is just kind of surprising to me. I paid $140 for this. He had $160 on it, and he came down to $140 for me, which I thought was very nice. So you can see this is what you can get for $140, a nice complete helmet. If you are looking to add one of these helmets to your collection, remember, this is over 100 years old now. Do it now, sooner rather than later, because the cost is just going to continue to go up and the condition of the helmets that are available are going to continue to go down. So I strongly recommend, like I did a few seconds ago, that if you are going to buy one of these, do it sooner rather than later. One of my goals at this show was to find an overseas cap to complete a display I was putting together, and I was having no luck. I wanted something that was a simple, dated 1942, 1943 plain Jane unpiped overseas cap, or one that was piped with the armored braiding. Just struck out on that. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, what have you, but I didn't quite find the right thing. So I decided instead that I would go with a service cap, because either a service cap or the overseas cap would work. And I found this beauty right here. This was on the same table as the whistle I showed earlier. Just an exceptional cap. I feel it's a very early cap. It has the back strap. It has a huge, wide kind of stance to the cap, which tends to get narrower as the war goes on. High quality cap, and when you flip it over here and look, I mean, just an excellent maker on the inside here. Big size, 7 1/8. I mean, it fits me, and that is amazing. So anytime I can find a hat that large, I try to pick it up. The correct green on the underside here of the visor. Overall, just 100% a beautiful, honest cap. And the price on this was $40. So I got the cap and the whistle for a total of $60. I don't think this is a bad price at all. Once again, these caps are also climbing up there. And I'm going to say this probably a couple times during this video, but if you're looking at adding a cap like this to your collection and you can find one for under $40, it's in really good shape, I would pick it up sooner rather than later, because these darn things, they used to be not popular at all, but for some reason they've caught on now, and the prices just continually climb. And trust me, from someone who's had this happen, I hear people all the time say, well, I'll put that off and buy it next year. And then when they get to next year, the price is, 40, 50% more. And then they say, well, I'll wait till the following year, and then it's 50% more. And pretty soon they just give up on trying to afford one. So if this is on your list, look for one. There are still really nice examples out there that are unmodded, unstained, and in excellent condition for a fair price. And this is a good example right here of that. And I will be showing that display to all of you in the future. It's going to go with a brand new 41 field jacket that I have. Ooh, not part of the show of shows. So, as I said, upcoming video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this next item is one of 3 surprises I had at the show of shows, and it clearly illustrates the importance of talking to the dealers. I have a policy that when I'm at a big show, and it doesn't have to be the show of shows, it's really any show. If I'm walking around and the dealer's not engaged in business, I'm going to say something to the dealer, whether I'm stopping at their table or not. I'm going to say hello, good morning, good afternoon, how are you, where are you from, what do you think of the weather? Just strike up that conversation because you never know where it's going to lead. And in this case, it led me to this absolutely stunning piece of US headgear. This is the first item I purchased, the Canteen over there being the last. And I bought this about an hour in on day one, on Thursday. And what had happened is I stopped at a dealer's table. He had some really nice Marine Corps headgear. And I struck up a conversation, how are you today? How's the show going so far? And then he got sidetracked with other business, which is perfectly acceptable. Obviously, they're there to sell and to interact with other customers as well. And I commenced to looking at his wares. He came back to me when the business was concluded, and he asked me what I collected. Did I collect Marine Corps? What type of Marine Corps I collected? And I told him, no, it was more headgear. And that's why I was looking at his Marine Corps hats. And I said, I collect all branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I focus strictly on U.S. And I like World War II, interwar, pre-war, which is interwar, I guess, and World War I. And he goes, I have a cap behind the table here. I just got an estate sale earlier, a couple weeks ago. And he goes, I haven't put it out yet because I just didn't have space for it. But would you like to look at it? And of course, I'm like, yes, I would love to look at it. I love seeing stuff come from behind the table. And coming from behind the table means that I get to have that first look at the item. The item wasn't looked at by other people at the show, on setup day, etc. It is fresh out of the woodwork, if you will. And he pulls out this hat. And I was shocked, okay? This hat right here is a World War I United States Army officer's cap, but it is in the rare tropical white configuration. Black visor, white cap, really a highly unusual cap. And I was gobsmacked when I saw this cap come out. Now, the condition isn't like you see it here. It was very dirty. It's showing its age, but still it is what it is. And, we talked about the price. I had a friend come over and look at it with me because I wanted to just make sure I wasn't missing something, do my due diligence, etc. And the price that he gave me was $65. I didn't even try to dicker. I took the cap and paid him, and that was that. Because as far as I'm concerned, and I did have this cap looked at by a couple of other individuals, and this was probably one of the rarer pieces of U.S. headgear at the show of shows. U.S. headgear at the show of shows, just because of what it is. These aren't out there. Now, I have done some work to this cap. I brought it home. I disassembled it. It's something that does come apart. The buttons here on the side, these do unscrew, so the cover can come off. I took the cover off and I cleaned the cover to bring back the whiteness. It was heavily water stained. I did work on the visor, which was very dingy, so that has been brought back, so it has much more of a sheen to it. And that was it. But it is just an amazing cap. I love this device. This is a really unique device in that it's a pin back device. It's not a post with a screw that goes through the cap. It's actually pinned to the cap, so highly unusual. But just a neat hat, and for $65, it shows you, as I've said countless times, that just because you go to the show of shows, don't think that you can't find unusual things or good deals. This item here, ladies and gentlemen, could be considered the second surprise, and I'm so excited about this item because this item I have been looking for over 10 years. It was at my first show of shows about 10 years ago that I saw one of these items. This is a World War I United States Army Infantry shelter half. Oh, we have a visitor. Looks like Mr. Max is back to see what's going on. Hello, Mr. Max. You're going to come right around in front and block the camera. Good for you. All right. Always have to be in the way. So anyways, this right here, I saw it at that first show of shows about 10 years ago, and I didn't buy it because I thought these are plentiful. You see them everywhere. Boy, was I wrong. For the last 10 years, as I've looked for one of these, I've always been a day late and a dollar short. Either the auction has ended or no one has one. So On Thursday, first day of the show, near the end, about 4 o'clock, I was going down one of the last aisles, and I just happened to look under a table, and I saw this. I was so shocked and surprised. You know, it's one of those things where you see it, and there's no price, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is something I've been looking for. I hope this works out. You're trying not to get excited. And that illustrates one thing about the show of shows, though, and that is that the show of shows has stuff on the tables. It has stuff on shelves on the tables. It has stuff under the tables. There's so much stuff to look at, boxes to dig through. It's amazing. So I asked the dealer, you know, how much are you asking? And he said, I need $25 for the item. Really, Max? Come on. You interested in the tent as well? Apparently, or are you just interested in getting some scritches? All right. Okay, come on. I love you, buddy, but you are like right in the shot. Where was I? Anyways, and see, now we've got a cat who has found a warm spot on a pair of trousers. You know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Anyways, $25. I asked him if I could take a look at it. He said no problem. Very friendly guy. We unrolled it and took a look and realized that it was actually not just the shelter half, but the complete tent. And he said, you know, for the complete tent, I didn't realize that. I'm going to have to charge you more. So how about $35? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to argue. It looked in okay shape. So I bought it. I brought it home, took it all apart, and created the 2 shelter halves. And what I discovered is that the top piece here does have some damage to it. We've got the original guy rope with it. And then if we look at it here, it looks like a mouse got to it right here. There's a little spot. It's on the triangular back flap. And it's not, I mean, it's pretty bad, but it's something that could be patched. And it's also not something that would detract from this being laid out for display. Now I want to show you really quick what I mean by World War I shelter half. The easiest way to tell is by looking at the buttons. If we zoom in here, you can see the patternization on the button there. That's pretty indicative of World War I. When you get into the World War II tents, they went to a solid button. So it'd just be a solid disc, and it was black, and then eventually OD. And then when you get post-World War II, did I say World War II? When you get to a World War II tent. All right, scratch that. Let me try it one more time because I don't remember what I just told you. I don't want to give you the wrong information. World War I, they look like this. When you get into World War II, they go to a solid disc that's black and then OD later on. And then when you get into post-World War II, they go to a snap instead of a button. So that's the easiest way to kind of date a tent. There are some variations in that, but that's just a real quick way of doing it. Now, the cool thing, though, about this top half here is this top half, even with that damage, it's actually unit marked, which I found to be outstanding. The unit marking on it is for the 161st Infantry Regiment, and what they were is they were the Washington Army National Guard, you know, District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and they were federalized on March 25th, 1917. So I switched from being known as the Washington Army National Guard to the 161st Infantry. They were shipped to France, but their unit was used as a replacement unit. So as the men came in, they were dispersed to other units. So for the unit itself, it was awarded 1 campaign streamer, but without any inscription because they didn't fight as a unit. But the majority of the men from that unit saw heavy action with other units. So pretty neat to find something that's actually unit marked from World War I. The second one is unmarked, and it's actually in really good condition. There was one minor little tear, but overall, just a very nice World War I shelter half. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. I know that I'm keeping 1/2 for, thanks, Max. See you later. 1/2 for displaying with my World War I collection, and the other half I'm debating, do I sell it, the one that's unit marked, or do I keep it simply to have a entire World War I tent? But ladies and gentlemen, $35. And while I was shopping, I came across 2 other shelter halves that were there, just the single halves. And to show you why it's important to take your time and look around, the other half, one gentleman wanted $550 for it, and the other gentleman, I believe, wanted $399. So, and that was just for a half. So that was a really brilliant surprise for $35. The final item that I have to share with you is this beautiful uniform, and this is the third in the surprises. It was an impulse buy, if you will. And no, it did not come with the cat, who's decided that the trousers are a comfortable place to sit. What drew me to this uniform, it was at the very end of the first day on Thursday. It was the last row that went down, and it was hanging on a clothing rack. And I like Chiefs uniforms. I do not have one in my collection at this point. I had one and then sold it. I actually sold it back to the person that originally sold it to me. But what drew my attention on this one was this right here. And I love to see that CB's patch on a Chiefs uniform. And the insignia on this is gorgeous. It's Carpenter's Mate in bullion. Just beautiful. The jacket itself is in excellent condition. Now, the jacket wasn't like this when I bought it. It was quite dirty. It was just covered in cat hair. Or dog hair, who knows. So I've taken time to really clean it up. But, I mean, it's just a gorgeous jacket. Beautiful cut. It's got the discharge emblem or ruptured duck here. It's got a great ribbon bar. And you have, of course, the blue ribbon is the American campaign. You have the Asiatic Pacific with 2 battle stars and the World War II Victory Medal with 1 star, which is unusual. It's got the nice small button front on it. And then what was cool is in the pocket here, this little tag, and it says, important, if you change your seat, please carry this with you. Keep it in sight for the conductor. And you can see it's been punched, so that's cool. And then also in the pocket was this right here, a nice construction battalion or CB cuff striker. And that was also in the pocket. So nice find. But then what also drew me to this, because, you know, I don't really need another uniform, but I like the fact that this one, which Mr. Max is covering up right now. Hey, bud. Thank you. Can you move out of the way for a second? This one came with the dress trousers. Beautiful trousers. And the trousers have the original suspenders on them, which is something you just don't see. So it's a nice complete outfit, and I do have a hat coming for it, so it will display absolutely beautiful. Beautiful? It'll display beautifully. You can see I've got it on a torso already, and it just looks absolutely great. Just a stunning uniform. Price I paid for this, well, $45. I don't think that's bad at all for a Chiefs uniform with the trousers. Once again, it shows you that stuff is out there if you just look for it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Show of Shows video, and just to let you know, as far as a channel update goes, I will be posting a review of the show with footage of the show, etc. here in the next day or so. I just wanted to get this recent find video out as soon as possible, and then we're going to go from there. I do have some other really cool videos planned. I have some other pickups I've done that weren't at the Show of Shows. I have that really awesome CCC collection I've talked about to share with you. And then I want to do another room tour. I haven't done one of those in a while, so that'll be coming up. So lots of fun things. So thanks for watching the video. And this is Steve reminding all of you to, well, keep them rolling.